What if everything you learned about the origins of God was only half the story? What if the first faces of divinity weren't hidden in white marble, but carved in black stone, gazing out over golden sands? Why did the earliest gods look so much like Africa? Imagine, for thousands of years, secrets buried, not just in deserts, but in the stories we tell ourselves about where we come from and who we are allowed to become. Are you ready to go deeper? Tonight, we journey into a forbidden history. A history erased, rewritten, whispered about in lost texts and ancient ruins. We're not just chasing legends, we're searching for the missing roots of faith itself. To see this truth, you'll need to leave behind everything comfortable. Because the story beneath the story might change you. Picture this: a burning sun over endless dunes, dust swirling around forgotten monuments, statues with faces that could be yours or mine. Somewhere, a drum echoes, a heartbeat from the very beginning. You reach out and touch a fragment of carved obsidian, smooth and cool under your fingertips. You hear the whisper of ancestors, voices long silenced by conquest, now rising again through you. This isn't just history, it's your story, and it's waiting for you. Are you ready to see the story beneath the story? If this sparks something in you, if you feel the pull of mystery, of hidden truth, hit that like button. Subscribe to the Prophecy Vault and join the journey. And in the comments below, tell us, have you ever wondered about the secrets that shaped your faith or your identity? Let's begin. Who were the black gods before Yahweh? And why did their names disappear from history? Close your eyes. Feel the pulse of ancient drums calling out across the desert night. A fire flickers. Smoke drifts over sandstone temples. Figures gather beneath the eyes of gods carved in black stone: Osiris, Isis, Amun-Ra, Ma'at. Their faces reflect the people. Dark skin, bold features, the beauty of Africa cast in divine form. This is not a myth. It was once the living faith of millions. Here, before the Bible, before Moses, before the name Yahweh echoed through the wilderness, the Nile flows as the cradle of spirit. Picture a dawn in ancient Nubia. A teenage boy stands beside his grandmother, breath misting in the cool air before sunrise. He looks up awestruck as elders paint the eyes of Osiris with ochre and kohl. He listens to the stories whispered under the stars, tales of gods who walk among men, gods who bring rain, justice, life after death. The world of his ancestors is alive with spirit. He is not afraid of the night. He believes his shadow is sacred. He hears the priests singing to Amun-Ra, the hidden one, the great creator. The rising sun is the breath of this god, lighting the world, waking crops, warming faces. His mother tells him, in every sunrise, you see the strength of Ra. In every river you feel the tears of Isis. In Nubia, in Cush, in Kemet, what we call ancient Egypt, the sacred was close, always near, and it looked like them. Their gods wore the faces of the people. No one taught this boy to bow before an image that denied his own skin. He grew up believing, I am made in the image of the divine, no color barrier, no stranger at the altar. Now picture the great halls of Egypt, walls glowing with the golden light of oil lamps. Statues of Ma'at, goddess of justice and truth, stand at every threshold. A single feather, her symbol, reminds all, after death, your heart will be weighed. If it is lighter than the feather, you are free. If not, your journey ends. Justice is not a threat, but a promise, balance for all. And Osiris, the resurrected god, dark-skinned, crowned in green and black, his story echoing in every promise of life after death. He was killed, dismembered, and yet reborn, an ancient hope of resurrection, centuries before Christianity would speak of a savior rising from the grave. His wife Isis, queen of magic and healing, whose image later would inspire the virgin and child. Her wings are outspread to shield the broken, to cradle new life. Amun-Ra, the hidden and all-powerful, is worshipped by kings and farmers alike. To speak his name is to draw near the source of the universe. He is invisible and everywhere, above the sun, within the breath, in the silence after prayer. Imagine what it meant for a child to walk into a temple, the air thick with incense, the voices of ancestors swirling overhead, and see themselves reflected in the faces of the god. No shame, no exile, only belonging. Now, listen to a quiet conversation between that Nubian boy and his grandmother as the sun sets and drums begin again. Grandmother, will these gods always watch over us? She smiles, her skin gleaming in the last gold of day. As long as we remember their names, child, their light will never die. But across the centuries, names fade. Empires rise. Stories are rewritten. The drums grow quieter. Eventually, a new god comes, one who demands the forgetting of others, one whose image changes as he travels north, his skin growing pale in the hands of foreign priests and artists. The gods of Africa are pushed underground. Their temples fall silent. The statues are broken or reimagined. Yet the memory lingers in songs sung under the moon, in the sway of the hips in sacred dances, in the quiet pride of a people who remember. We once saw ourselves in the divine. This is the truth, buried in the sand. That the first gods known to humanity looked like Africa. That spiritual identity was once rooted in a sense of kinship, not separation. That before doctrine built walls, the sacred built bridges. Pause and ask yourself, if your first image of God looked like you, would it change how you see yourself? Would you walk with more confidence, pray with more hope, love yourself more fiercely? Would you dare to believe your story matters? As the light fades, the last echo of the drum slips into darkness. A shadow sweeps across the map of Africa, names fading but not gone. Because stories like this do not die. They wait like seeds in the sand, ready to bloom whenever the truth is called home again. Now, let's step into the silence, into the space between memory and myth, because the next chapter is waiting, and the gods are still listening. Why did the stories of Black God vanish from the world's memory? Can you hear it? The crash of a black statue falling, stone shattering against stone. A stained glass window, once alive with brown faces, slowly turns white under a painter's trembling brush. Ancient scrolls burn in a silent midnight, fire licking at the corners of history, prayers rising and mixing with the sound of someone quietly weeping. Picture the Middle East, centuries before and after Moses. Tribes gather around sacred fires, their gods as varied as the stars above. But as the Hebrews wander in from the desert, a new name takes hold, Yahweh. Not just a god, but the only one allowed. The old gods, Amun-Ra, Isis, Baal, Asherah, are rebranded as demons, idols, witches, the enemy. In temples and villages, elders tremble as their altars are smashed, their traditions forbidden by royal decree, their sacred stories now whispered only in secret. A young priest stands at the door of his family's shrine. He runs his hand over the carved lips of an ebony goddess. Smoke from burning papyrus curls around his fingers. He cannot save her. He cannot stop the change. His prayers are just a hush, drowned by the march of new laws and new gods. As the last piece of the statue is hauled away, he closes his eyes and wonders, will anyone remember who she was? Across the sea in the cathedrals of Europe, another erasure begins. The Black Madonna, once worshipped in candlelit chapels, the image of a dark-skinned mother and child, slowly disappears from public view. Her statues are hidden, her face repainted, her story left out of the books. Where once the faithful saw a mother who looked like them, they now find only pale marble and golden halos. The erasure is everywhere. Powerful goddesses, once healers and judges, become witches in stories told to frighten children. Their songs are called superstition. Their rituals, now forbidden, are practiced only by moonlight or not at all. Fires burn in the squares. Old texts, scrolls, tablets, carvings are tossed in, sacrificed to a new story. And the faces in stained glass grow whiter each generation until only pale light shines through. Why? Why this need to erase? Because the stories we tell about God shape who we think we are. Erase the image of a black God, and you erase the self-worth of entire peoples. You make the divine seem distant, alien. You make a child doubt the beauty of their own skin, the holiness of their ancestors, the truth in their own song. This is not just ancient history. Look at our world today. In every movie, every Sunday school mural, every piece of sacred art, how many times is God or Jesus or an angel shown as anything but white? When did divinity become a matter of skin color? Imagine a little girl sitting in church, her dark eyes searching the faces of saints in the stained glass. She asks, why doesn't God look like me? What does it do to her soul when she finds no answer? There are stories buried in every culture, secrets kept alive by grandmothers and storytellers, whispered prayers at funerals, dances around forgotten fires. The Black Madonna is still honored in hidden corners of Europe, but her story is rarely told. We call this spiritual colonization. It's not just conquest of land or body, it's the theft of the sacred self. To erase the black gods is to erase collective memory. To make an entire people believe that their roots are a curse, their rituals evil, their ancestors lost in darkness. But listen closer. Underneath the silence, the old songs are still there. A drum beat in the blood, a yearning in the bones, a dream of faces shining in the dark. The spirit is not so easily destroyed. Have you ever felt disconnected from your roots by the stories you inherited? Have you ever looked at a painting or a statue and wondered what was left out? What would it mean to remember? To reclaim the stories that were taken? The cries of the past begin to fade. The light narrows to a single flicker, barely illuminating a weathered stone. The names are hard to read, but they are not gone. The next chapter waits in the quiet, in the longing, in the first step toward memory. History can be rewritten, but spirit, if you listen, will always find its way home. Can a forgotten legacy ever rise again? What if the story you carry in your blood could change your world? Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Somewhere, deep beneath city lights and busy streets, a drumbeat stirs, a rhythm older than memory. It begins as a whisper, then grows, calling out to those who felt lost, rootless, erased. A young woman walks into a church in Atlanta. The pews are familiar, but something is different today. At the front, surrounded by candles, stands a painting of Jesus. But his skin is brown, his hair textured, his eyes deep and knowing. She freezes, tears springing to her eyes, because for the first time in her life, she sees herself reflected in the divine. She presses her hand to her heart, and the air thrums like someone just opened a window to let her ancestors in. Elsewhere, a teenager spits in a plastic tube for an ancestry DNA test. He's searching for something lost, a name, a country, a people. When the results come back, he learns his lineage stretches back to the banks of the Nile, to the heart of old Nubia, to the kingdom of Cush. He closes his eyes and pictures ancestors dancing under African stars, the gods they worshipped, the stories they told, the dignity they carried. Everywhere you look, it's happening. People gathering in living rooms, on college campuses, in parks, and at kitchen tables. They light candles, beat drums, sing in tongues no longer taught in school. They reclaim Juneteenth, not just as a holiday, but as a celebration of surviving, of memory, of victory. They watch films that dare to paint Jesus, Moses, Mary, and the angels in shades of brown and black, and feel a secret joy, as if something broken is finally healing. A little boy in New Orleans sits at his grandmother's knee, listening to stories of ancestors, freemen, farmers, queens and warriors, saints and healers. He asks her, "Grandma, did God look like us?" She smiles, pulls him close, and whispers, "Child, God looked like everyone, but he surely didn't look far from us." Reclamation is more than a trend. It is a spiritual uprising. It's the moment you realize that erasure was a tool, but memory is a weapon. It's discovering that your spirit has roots that were only sleeping, not dead. At a Juneteenth parade, the crowd moves as one, a river of color, drumbeats, gospel, laughter, and tears. Someone lifts a banner painted with black angels and a golden ink. Children with braided hair ride on shoulders, reaching for the sky. You can feel the old stories rising in the streets, songs that echo both loss and hope. A young artist in Los Angeles sculpts a statue of Mad, the goddess of justice, with skin like obsidian and eyes like fire. He places it in his window, a beacon for passers-by, a silent prayer. May justice rise again, not just in courts, but in hearts and history. A preacher stands before his congregation and quotes Psalm 139, "For I am fearfully and wonderfully made." But he adds, "And so were your ancestors." Never forget, their image, their stories, their dreams live on in you. On social media, the Hair Black Jesus movement grows, not to exclude, but to reclaim, to declare that divinity is not limited by culture or skin, that to see yourself in God is to be healed, and to see God in others is to be set free. People gather to learn old rituals, to speak the names of the gods erased, to drum, to pour libations, to call the names of the ancestors. Not as idolatry, but as a healing of the severed spirit. And the question comes, what would you reclaim if you knew your legacy had been erased? Would you paint your saints in your own image? Would you pray in the language of your ancestors? Would you dance the old dances and tell the old stories so that no child would ever again look at stained glass and think, God doesn't look like me? This awakening is not always gentle. It's a trembling, a longing, a rage at what was stolen, and a fierce pride at what survived. But look around. The light is spreading. Young faces, radiant and strong, are turning toward their past, not to be trapped by it, but to bring its power forward. You are not just the inheritor of wounds, but of wisdom. You are not just the product of erasure, but the rebirth of memory. And as the drums echo across generations, as hands reach out to touch ancient statues, as eyes see themselves in the divine for the first time, the world begins to change. Not by force, but by remembrance, by the return of ancestral memory. The question lingered: if your story had been hidden, if your legacy erased, would you have the courage to reclaim it? Would you stand in the light and say, I remember, I belong, my spirit was never lost, only waiting to be called home? The camera pulls back. A field of faces, young and old, dark and bright, all looking forward, the past raising behind them like the dawn. The journey is not over. It has only just begun. Who are you when you strip away all the stories others wrote for you? Who are you really when no one is watching and the only voice you left is your own? A single candle burns in a quiet room. A young woman sits cross-legged on the floor, her hands resting on her knees, a faded photograph of her grandmother before her. Outside, the city hums with electric noise, but inside, there's only the soft flicker of flame, the gentle hush of breath, the hush that comes just before a question too old and too deep for words. She closes her eyes. What do I truly believe? Whose voice is speaking in my prayers? The voice I was taught, or the one rising up from somewhere deeper, somewhere older? Where does my sacred story begin? A gentle wind moves through the open window, carrying the scent of rain, of earth, of something wild and ancient. She remembers how her mother hummed old songs in the kitchen, how her grandfather sprinkled water on the doorstep for good luck, how the church sang hymns on Sunday, but her family whispered blessings to the moon at midnight. She remembers laughter and tears, food offered for the dead, stories told in the dark that felt more true than any textbook. Now she lights another candle and whispers a name, one not found in any Bible, but carved on the family tree, etched in her memory. She touches her chest and feels her heart drum, a sound as old as the world. She wonders, am I honoring my ancestors or just repeating rituals without meaning? Is my faith something I've inherited or something I am building day by day? Her brother walks in, shoulders tense from work, and sits beside her. He doesn't say a word, but together they share a silent moment, breathing in the old stories and letting go of the pain. He places a single flower in a jar by the photograph, a gesture both new and ancient, simple and profound. Elsewhere, a young man scrolls through photos on his phone. Family reunions, faded face, old letters. He texts his father, Dad, what do you remember about great-grandpa? Did he believe in miracles or just hard work? His father replies, Both, son. He believed in the ground under his feet and the sky over his head. He believed God lived in the seed and the harvest, the laughter and the struggle. Sometimes healing begins in small ways, a meal cooked with intention, a song sung without shame, a walk barefoot in the grass, feeling the heartbeat of the earth. It's in the moments when we say, I am enough, just as I am, with all my scars and questions and the strange, beautiful mixture of traditions that shape me. We are all, in some way, children of stories. Stories told to keep us safe, stories told to hold us back, stories that broke us and stories that healed us. But there comes a time when you must ask, which stories are truly yours? What legacy do you want to pass on? A woman dreams she meets her ancestors on a sunlit hill. She asks them, "What should I do with the pieces you left me?" They answer, "Live, remember, heal." Tell our story in your own voice, with your own heart. Spiritual healing is not a destination, it's a journey. It's the courage to be different, to honor what makes you unique, to forgive the pain passed down, and cherish the blessings that remain. It's learning to see yourself not just as someone trying to fit old molds, but as a new link in an unbroken chain, carrying memory, hope, and possibility into the future. So, what about you? If you could meet your ancestors in a dream tonight, what would you ask them? Would you ask for their wisdom or for their blessing? Would you ask for forgiveness or simply say, "Thank you for surviving so that you could be here, lighting this candle, saying this prayer, living this life?" The flower in the jar opens to the sun. Morning spills through the window, golden and soft. A new day begins, full of promise, full of memory, full of hope. And somewhere far beyond the city, an old drumbeat begins again. Your journey is your own, but you're never walking it alone. The roots run deep, and the light, even in the quietest moment, will always find you. This isn't just a story about gods erased or names forgotten. It's about the sacred memory alive inside you, the legacy that no system, no doctrine, no history book can truly erase. In every generation, people try to silence the drum, hide the truth, rewrite the lines. But through every storm and every silence, something endures. A heartbeat, a memory, a light that refuses to go out. Maybe you've felt it, a whisper deep inside when you wonder where you belong, a longing to know who you really are, a hunger to reclaim a story bigger than any label or boundary. Today, you've heard how spiritual identity is more than inheritance. It's your birthright, a legacy no one else can live, a flame you carry and pass forward. So let me ask you, what will the world remember about you when your story is told? Will your name be lost to time, or will your truth shine for generations yet unborn? Will you let someone else write your story, or will you reclaim it, page by page, in every act of kindness, every word of hope, every step toward the truth of your roots? If this journey awakens something in you, if you feel the pulse of memory and meaning beating in your chest, share your story below. Tell us how you're reclaiming your roots, how you're honoring your ancestors, how your spirituality shapes your life. Let's create a living tapestry, a community of voices unafraid to remember, to question, to celebrate the sacred in every tradition. Like this video, if it touched something real for you. Subscribe and join us at the Prophecy Vault, where every story matters, where your voice is welcome, and where together we keep the ancient fire burning. You are not alone. Your story isn't finished. The sacred journey goes on, and the world is waiting for your light.